Stop talking about comic books or I'll kill you. I don't care if the Hulk could defeat the Man of Steel. I'm gonna rearrange your face if you continue to debate whether Logan's claws could pierce Steve Rogers' shield.
Hey there, comic fam. Bullseye Bob here, and welcome to Everything Comics. And welcome to another episode of reviews, previews, and back issue breakdowns. I know it's been a little while, but we'll get into that. But I'm so happy to be back filming, and so we're just going to get right into the show. Got a lot to go over today, and I'm excited. I haven't been here for a while. So first thing is, this episode is brought to you by the Rogue Trader. They're a partner of the show, and this is where I get all of my comics pressed and cleaned. If you go to their website, there'll be a link down in the description below. They have an amazing pressing service over there. They take your books in. They will take a look at what needs to be done and make suggestions. They'll press them. They'll clean them. Do everything that you need in order for you to get the best grade possible when you send your books in to be graded. And I have to tell you, they're a fantastic, fantastic service. My ratios of 9.8s went way up after I started using them. The owner-proprietor, Eric Strubble, he's a really good friend of the show, and he's a gem to the comic book community for all he does. He's been around for a number of years, and he supports so many different things, and so we really appreciate him. And but go check out their website. They also have comics for sale, and when you check out, if you whether you get some comics to be pressed and cleaned, and you're going to submit those, or maybe you find some comic books on the website, you'll get 20% off that purchase. How can you beat that? That is awesome. And so go check out the roguetraderutah.com and see what they have available for you. Also, sponsor of the show is the Refuge Coffeehouse. As you know, I used to do the coffee and comic show every Saturday, and I have since moved on from that because the Refuge is just not the place that it was for me to be able to film there. It's so much louder, and but that's okay. But they're still a sponsor of the show. Really love them over there. They're one of the best coffee houses in Portland, and you'll always find them at 9217 Southeast Foster Road, right here in Portland. And if you're ever here, or you come out to visit or anything, just let me know, and we'll get together and we'll go have some coffee, talk comics, talk whatever you want, but we'll hang out at the Refuge. So first of all, before I get into all the rest of everything, I just want to say thank you all very much for all the well wishes and prayers that you all sent to me. As most of you know, maybe some of you don't, last week, it's actually almost 2 weeks now, but we had a very severe cold front come into the Portland. I know the most of the country had this huge cold front come through, but we were on kind of the edges of that cold front here in Portland, and where I live, we're on the actual edge of it, just a mile east, and I would have gotten maybe 6 to 8 inches of snow, something like that. But we were on the other side of that edge, and what we ended up getting was 4 to 5 inches of ice. And if you know anything about Portland, we mostly have trees here, and the trees couldn't bear all that weight, and so the snap crackle popping outside sounded like fireworks going off. All these tree limbs were coming down, and they pulled so many power lines down. We ended up losing power here, and ended up losing it not just the night that it happened, but we lost power for a whole week. And there's a couple of different things that we needed to do because of that. My father-in-law lives with my wife and I, and he's up in age, and it would be very dangerous for him to be here in the real extreme cold. So we needed to get him out of here. And then also I have to work, and without Wi-Fi I can't do that. So what we ended up doing was going to a hotel. We were very fortunate that we were able to do that. I know there are a lot of people out there who were not as fortunate, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm privileged or anything, but I really feel for those people who couldn't do that. But anyway, we did stay in a hotel. It's not as glamorous as it sounds, but at least we had heat. We had the Wi-Fi. We had a little refrigerator. We had hot water, and we were safe, at least for the week. And but that's why I haven't put any content out for a while. Of course, comic books, the week that it happened, they were already delayed. Last week they were delayed. I couldn't have done a show anyway. And so, but as of this last Friday, we got our power back. Everything's back on. The Bob Cave is back up and running. And so we're very, very happy and grateful that it's all over with. But I was so very, very touched by all of the messages that I received on Instagram, through email, on Facebook, and even inside of some of the comments on Bueller's, the Coffee and Comic Show that we did, that I do with Bueller. So many of you left messages of concern, prayers, well wishes, and I just want to say that I was truly touched by that, and I want to thank you very much for those sentiments. They didn't go to waste. I read every single one of them, and I just want to say thank you so much. It means a lot. But here we are. We're back up and running, and we have another episode of reviews, previews, and back issue breakdowns, and let's get into it. So I have some announcements that I want to go over just really quick. If you don't want to listen to the announcements, because there's quite a few of them this time, there'll be a timestamp that's going to come up on the screen. I'm going to slightly edit this video, and you can just go ahead and skip right over the announcements and go straight to the reviews if you want. But the first announcement is, remember, not that long ago, I had a giveaway, and that giveaway didn't work so well. There were some of you who had signed up for it and didn't get in on it, and that made me really upset, and I wanted to make sure that I made it up to you guys, because it was my way of saying thank you for supporting the show. I'm still working on that, but I want to reveal one of the giveaways that's going to happen. Not that long ago, it was solicited Mighty Morphin 4. I don't know how many of you are Power Rangers fans, but Mighty Morphin 4, there was an exclusive cover from Rocket Punch Collectibles, and I'm going to put it up here on the screen. This is a cover done by the artist Idan. It's an amazing cover. It's the White Ranger, and I just love this piece of art. Really cool. I've got the Virgin cover coming that is an absolute exclusive, and that will be one of the things that I'm giving away. Side note to that, I have been talking to Idan for quite a while, even before he was doing this cover, and I actually have a commission piece that I sent off to him. I'm very excited to get this back. I ended up sending him a piece to commission for me as a homage cover. Very famous cover. You'll all recognize it when I get it, and I should get it in a couple weeks, and I'll show it off to everybody. But I'm very excited because, as you can see, he's a phenomenal artist, and so I consider myself lucky that I was able to get in a commission with him before he gets all famous. So pretty cool. All right, so another thing I wanted to talk about is tomorrow night, Thursday, the 25th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we are having our monthly comic review. That's right. That's when I get together with Bueller from Comics with Bueller, Dylan from Dylan's Comics, Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers. We may have another guest on, but we're going to go over our favorite comics of the month. Side note to that, we may not be able to get to this week's comics inside that show because of the fact that it sounds like that Robbie and Dylan's comics have been delayed again this week, and so we may be short on reading the last week of the month's comics. And so, but anyway, it's going to be a great time. You don't want to miss it. It's one of my favorite shows of the month. And but tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, don't miss it, guys. And then also another thing coming up this Monday, March 1st, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You guys know how much of a fan of Canto that I am. I am going to be interviewing Drew Zucker and David Bueller, the creators of Canto. I cannot wait to have these guys on the show. Definitely tune in and check out the interview. It's going to be a fun time. They're actually going to be bringing some stuff to give away on the show, so you don't want to miss that, but you have to be there in the chat when we do the giveaway. The only people that are in the chat are going to be eligible for it. But man, it's going to take me a few minutes to fanboy out before I can settle down and ask him some good questions. But I'm so ready for this, and I've been waiting for this for quite quite a while, and I'm very excited about it. So tune in Monday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, March 1st. It's going to be an awesome time. And then lastly, I'm on another show, Comics with Bueller, every Monday morning, 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the brand new coffee and comic show. This is where I get together with my good buddy Bueller, and we talk about the hottest topics in comics. We always have a great subject, and we use your comments to drive our conversation. And so this Monday, or this next Monday that's coming up, I should say, the subject for the conversation is going to be, what is a key? And if you want to get into that conversation, go to this morning's preview video that dropped on his channel. It's the most watched preview video on YouTube. And in the comment section, leave a comment on what you believe a key is. There's a lot of differing opinions on that. We want to hear your opinion. But also, at the end of that preview video, there's also a really cool thing that happens. I'm actually on there, and Bueller's been doing this thing where he has asked people to like his videos, and if he gets 1,000 likes, then he'll eat a chalupa. And if he gets a chalupa from Taco Bell, of course, and then the next week, if he gets another 1,000 likes, he'll add a second one to it, and he'll eat 2 chalupas, and he'll keep doing that until he gets up to 7, because I think that's about his limit. But somehow he roped me in on this thing, and I was with him when we filmed that particular video. Go check it out. It's at the end. It's a lot of fun. You guys know that we cut it up, and we're really good friends, and people are talking about how funny this particular bit was that we did. I was really had a lot of fun doing it. So go check it out on the Comics with Bueller channel. It's a lot of fun. So those are the announcements, guys. As you can tell in my voice, I am really excited. I haven't been able to do one of these videos for a while, and it just feels so good to be back. So now again, because this is not. I have my comics from this week, but I haven't read them yet. I will do a normal weekly comic review this weekend, and so we can get into those. And so, but I do have comics from the last couple of weeks, and so I just took out a bunch from both weeks that kind of stood out to me, and I'm going to go ahead and review those. That's going to be this particular show. And so it'll be a little bit different. It's not like my normal weekly preview. It's just a preview, or review, I should say, a review of some of the comics that I've read in the last couple of weeks. And so that's what you're going to get. So let's go ahead and get right into it, okay? All right. Okay, so the first book on the list, and you guys know, I'm going to read this every month because it's my favorite character. But we got Daredevil number 27. This, of course, written by Chip Zdarsky, and we have art on this one by Marco Cicchetto, and he was joined by, I think it's Mike Hawthorne. Mike Hawthorne was the artist who joined him on it, so it's kind of a dual effort. And, I love Cicchetto's artwork, but you can tell inside of this which was Cicchetto and which was Hawthorne. There's definitely a different style to each of them. It wasn't too despairing, but it was definitely noticeable. But for all the King in Black tie-ins, I really haven't enjoyed many of them much. They really have no meaning. That's kind of the thing that Marvel does. They have these tie-ins, but they're not actual tie-ins, really. And sometimes I also think that they really put it on these artists in a way that, they've got their story that they're writing, and then they're interrupted by having to have this thing interjected upon them. And I don't know. I wouldn't like it. So, but the thing I like about this particular book is that Chip Zdarsky has been writing such an amazing run on Daredevil, and in the tie-in, even though he's having to tie it into the King in Black, he's doing such a good job in keeping with the narrative that he has developed from the whole time, but from issue 25 on, where you get Elektra as Daredevil, and still fleshing out the characteristics of the place that Matt is at now, fleshing out where she is at in taking on the mantle. And so I've really enjoyed it. So as a tie-in in itself, it's not that bad. but I really love the fact that he's kept with the narrative. This one was really cool. We finally get the kind of face-off between Elektra and Poison Ivy, the Null Eyes, the Poison Ivy. And she kind of avoids her at first because she's trying to save this girl. She's trying to be more like Daredevil as she goes along, where the people are the most important thing. The artwork inside of this, I just absolutely enjoyed. I loved it. Like I said, there's some differences there between Chichetto and Hawthorne. But one of the things that was really cool is that you start to see that Elektra has some of the tools that Matt uses. The gear that she has the wires inside of her size. She's got the wires so that she can, swing around on stuff just like Daredevil, which I really enjoyed. And so we got some of that. And then I think my favorite part about this particular issue is that, of course, the issue before we saw that Daredevil himself had become nullized. And so we get this inner battle that's going on between Null and Matt on his on the inside of him. So he looks like this nullized Daredevil on the outside, but on the inside he's having this inner dialogue with Null. And normally we're used to seeing Matt fight with his fists, and this is one of the first times we've seen him actually fight with his faith. You can see him inside of here where he basically is telling him, I'm not just Matt Murdock, I'm Daredevil. It was pretty cool. But we get to see him fight with his faith, and basically Null says, "I'm a god," and Daredevil's like, "You're no god, I know God." And it was just so cool to see how he did that. Of course, that really spoke to my heart. But I really enjoyed the issue as far as it being a King in Black tie-in. I didn't mind it so much, but I just love the things that Chip Zdarsky is doing with the characters. And so Daredevil 27, really good read. So the next one is, let's see, we got Once and Future, number 16. Of course, this is written by Karen Gillan. The art is by Dan Mora. And of course, the colors by Tamara Bonavillin. I just love this creative team. As far as like a full-on creative team, I think this is one of the best that's out there. I love Dan Mora's art. Karen Gillan's writing, especially as lighthearted as this has been. And then Tamara Bonavillin, I've said it many times, she's the best colorist out there. So we get a continuation, and things are really starting to heat up. In our story, our main characters are on the run because they basically have Lancelot coming after them. We get a little snapshot of Lancelot down here, but you can see the dynamic colors that are in this book. I mean, Tamara Bonavillin stuff is just insane. And we also get Galahad in here, so he's back. And but everything is coming to a head, and it kind of feels like that this story may be ending. I don't know if it's going to continue to be an ongoing. I was hoping it was going to continue to be an ongoing series, but it kind of feels like he's ready to wrap this thing up. We have some definite things that are going on with Merlin and King Arthur. And King Arthur has been sitting in this throne, but he's also kind of tied into the earth, so he's got plants growing through him, and we're going to find out what that's about. But in the end of this book, we basically get Galahad, there he is right there, being unleashed, and he's supposed to not only go get Nimue, but he's also supposed to bring back the Holy Grail, and can't wait to see what happens next. But I mean, the artwork inside of this thing, and the color. Look at this scene with the dragon here, just phenomenal. And man, it's one of my favorite books that comes out every month, and I just can't wait to see what happens next. I love the characters in this title. So there's that one. Next one is King in Black, number 4. This one by Marvel Comics, of course. This written by Donny Cates. The artwork inside of this one was done by Ryan Stegman. And I thought he had a co-artist on this one also, but no, I guess not. I really enjoy this particular issue. There's a lot that happens. We're getting to the crux of Dylan. Null finally trying to come and take him over. And in the background, we find out that the heroes, I mean, all of them have fallen so far. And we get to this place where maybe not so many are fallen as we think. And while Dylan is fighting Null, look at that scene. Stegman's artwork is insane. Whoever colored this is really good too. Let me see who the colorist is. Sorry to stop the narrative here, but the color artist is Frank Martin. Really well done. But as he's fighting off Null, in the background of Dylan's mind, there's a voice that starts to talk to him, and basically letting him know that he's not alone, and there's more than meeting the eye here, and something is about to happen that's going to help him out immensely. And we get the big reveal that the hero that's talking to him is Jean Grey herself. Look at that as she comes on the scene, and we have Null getting pushed back, at least for a second. And but really what goes on inside of this, it with as much as it seems like Null is about to be defeated, he flexes his strength, and we see that he is not defeated at all. But in the midst of what's going on, this was all a setup, because remember that whole thing with the character Stealth, and we had this because Null is from the dark, and we have this champion of the light that's coming. Well, we finally find out who this champion of light is, and the reveal at the end of this book I was not expecting at all. I mean, I've made predictions as to what's going to happen, and none of those predictions were even close to what finally ended up happening inside of this book. But I mean, we are basically they name drop somebody I haven't really heard about or even read in years, and that was Captain Universe. And so we find out that the bringer of light is, and this is all spoilers. I mean, if you guys haven't read this by now, you should have. So I'm not going to be all hurt that I hurt anybody. I'm not worrying about hurting anybody's feelings if this spoils it, okay? But basically, we find out that this champion of light is Captain Universe, and we're going to be it's the Enigma force that's going to be wielded here, and of course that Enigma force always chooses the champion, and lo and behold, like we showed in this last page, it's choosing Eddie Brock as the champion. So it seems like Eddie Brock is going to become Captain Universe. And what does that mean for Venom? I don't know, but we're going to have to read and find out next. Anyway, I really enjoyed this particular part of the King in Black story. It's all coming to a head, and I've just been enjoying it all the way through. Stegman's artwork is great inside of this. I love Donny Cates' writing, and the colors actually stood out to me inside of this too. So having a great time with the King in Black. All right, the next one is from Vault Comics, and this is Hollow Earth. This was kind of a weird one. This one is written by Paul Allor, and the art is by Paul Tucker. And so you can see it kind of looks like a spaceman here on the cover. It's actually a human that actually has died, and they have basically put his body parts into kind of a mech unit. And so you can see all of his organs are kind of they're all being kept alive by the machine, and then the machine itself is kind of it looks like it's kind of regulated by the government or some type of ruling body that wants to use him for something. We don't know what that is, but just like the RoboCop trope, you get the whole piece that it doesn't matter. It's not like they're using him like RoboCop, because we haven't really fleshed that out yet. But if he wants to leave, he can't, because he's property now, and so he's tethered. And so that's what kind of this book revolves around. There's a he tries to escape, and he gets damaged, and there's a guy that comes out to try to fix him. And in the fixing of it, he realizes that he wasn't trying to escape, but that he was trying to commit suicide because he just wants to be free, because he understands that he's tethered. And so we have this mechanic guy kind of go through some moral moral searching. And so what he's going to end up doing is he wants to come back and help him to escape. And so that's what the crux of the story is. We're going to see him try to do that. The artwork I wasn't too crazy about. It's kind of, I don't want to say amateurish, but I don't know. Maybe it's the inking that I didn't like. I don't know if you can see that up close, but it just wasn't as polished as I would have liked to have seen it. And for a book that was really supposed to be surreal and science fiction-y, I didn't get that too much out of the artwork. It didn't flow that way. So, but all in all, I like the setup. I don't know if I'm going to keep this on my pull list or not. I'm kind of on the fence about it. But for a good, issue number 1, it was a good setup for wherever they're going to take it. And so there it is, Hollow Earth, Vault Comics. Maybe check it out. Let me know what you think. All right, next one we have Shadow Doctor number 1. This one by Aftershock Comics. And this one is written by Peter Calloway, and the art by George Janti, I think it is. It's either Ginty or Janti. I think it's Janti. And so basically right from the very beginning, you open it up and you can see it tells you this is a true story. And they kind of corroborate that in the back. There's this whole write-up that shows you the true history of what's really going on here. And the history is about the writer, Calloway, his I think it's his father or his grandfather that this is about. I think it might be his father. There we go. It was his grandfather. There we go, because there's an interview in the back with the writer and everything like that. But basically what this revolves around is that we find in the very beginning we're in the Prohibition, and of course all the smuggling of alcohol and moonshine running and all that type of stuff. And that's what we get in the beginning of this book. We have some moonshine being ran, and they get to a place where there's a downed tree in the road, and as soon as they get out to investigate, you can see them get up a little close here, all of a sudden from out of the woods all these Tommy guns and machine guns pop out, and they start blasting all the trucks. And the only survivor is the driver. This is an African American driver, and he basically knows that this is the line of work that he doesn't want to be in. I wouldn't either. So he basically, because he escapes with his life, and he probably shouldn't have, he writes these 2 letters, and basically the crux of it is that he is sworn to change his life for the better. And so that's what he does. He sets out on this journey to change his life, and he goes and wants to become a doctor. And so the story is kind of told from the perspective years later, Calloway's father sitting at his grandfather's deathbed, and the grandfather is recounting the story of what happened and how he became a doctor. And he starts to recount that it didn't happen just by me going to school and becoming a doctor. There was a much deeper story to this. And he starts narrating it from his hospital bed, which was, I thought, a really cool way to start telling this story. And I got to tell you, I really, really was compelled. I enjoyed reading this all the way through. I loved the setup. I can't wait to see where we're going with it, because there's a big reveal at the end. I guess I shouldn't have been too surprised. The artwork I thought really fit for this book. And, Aftershock's been putting out some really good stuff. But this one is kind of, it feels a little more heartfelt and genuine, because the guy is telling the basically his family history and what happened with his grandfather. And I got to tell you, it's an incredible story. So if you're looking for something just kind of different, not so science fiction-y or superhero-y or anything like that, that's a piece of history. And especially, from Prohibition time and the struggle that African Americans had trying to get into, positions of, that were positions of betterment, like being a doctor or a lawyer or politician or, all of the upper echelons of things, and that type of struggle. This story is going to tell how one got through it, and so I really, really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it. And let me know what you think about it. Shadow Doctor by Aftershock Comics. All right, so the next one we got is number 2. And, of course, this one written by Maxwell Prince. And the artwork by Zoe Thorogood. And, look, I love Maxwell Prince. I love his writing, especially, of the stuff he's done on Ice Cream Man. That first issue of was I absolutely loved it. I just expect that I'm going to love the next issue of this, and I did. It was really well done. There's been some things that he's written lately that I had some problems with, especially back at Christmas time. But that's a whole other conversation. But I will tell you that so far these one story one-offs in just like he does in Ice Cream Man, because they're all single stories, it was just so well done. This one revolves around a girl who is a dancer, and of course the artwork is kind of the same thing you'd get out of an Ice Cream Man book, kind of the same thing you saw in the first story, but there's a flashback that she has before she goes out to dance, talking about how every boy and girl needs a mother. And we get into the story about how she became the dancer that she is through her mom going through a psychotic break. And so she basically takes us back into the narrative where her mom dresses up as a clown as she's going through this break and starts to use herself to get money, prostituting and a lot of different other things. And she wants to take the daughter to this place called Funville. If she can just get across the country to this place called Funville, then they can start their lives over again. And through the whole thing, she's wearing this clown makeup, which is really freaky. And she's teaching her daughter to do different things like drive. Like, you got to grow up sometime. And so she makes her drive across the country. You can see her driving right there. And there's the clown makeup. And so basically what ends up happening is there's one last hotel they're going to stay in. And there's a guy that comes that's going to pay her a lot of money. And that's where the little girl kind of finds out what she does for money. And so she comes out and says, "Don't touch my mom." This guy gets up, hits the little girl, and the mom just completely goes, nuts, and goes off on the guy and ends up killing him. And so now they get on the road and they run. And when they finally get to Funville, because that's where the end of the road is supposed to be, we find out that Funville has been closed for quite some time. As you can see, it's now Unville, all the closed signs, and all the dreams are dashed. Kind of the same thing he does in Ice Cream Man, where he just puts you in a place of despair, or all hope has been taken away. And so that's what happens inside of this. And of course, the mom gets arrested for that murder. And now here we are years later, and this girl is about to go on stage. And we basically find that as she goes out there, she dresses as a clown. And it's creepy, it's compelling, it has the same tone that you're going to get, like I said, out of an Ice Cream Man book, so on par with what he did inside of the first issue. I love that first issue. It was really good. But the guy's stuff is so compelling, it's so good. And I will continue to I will continue to get Ice Cream Man and Haha because I'm really digging it. All right, so the next one on the list, we have We Live, number 5 from Aftershock. Okay, this is another one that I have loved from the very beginning. I love what the Miranda brothers have done. Of course, they're the ones that are doing all the art and the writing. They still have the QR codes that you can scan. It'll take you to YouTube to songs of the soundtrack of the We Live soundtrack, which I thought was a cool idea to have a soundtrack for a comic book. And it does. It really isn't, the best music in the world. But it is compelling. I keep using the word compelling. You notice that? But it's well done. But it creates an atmosphere and mood to certain parts of the book. And that's the part that I've enjoyed about it. So don't pass up on scanning those QR codes if you've been following the story, because it actually does add to it. And so, of course, we are getting to the end of this story, and I'm going to spoil the heck out of this one. If you don't want this one spoiled, then move ahead, because this was actually, I was surprised by this book. So we get to the end where our two main characters are at the site where they're supposed to be lifted up or being taken off of planet Earth, because of course, remember, planet Earth is about to be, human race is about to be extinct, and they're put bracelets on these kids, and they've allowed, I think it was 10,000, I think something like that, 10,000 kids are allowing off the planet. And so as they've gotten close to this thing that's supposed to take them up, we're noticing that all over the world, other sites where those things are at are being destroyed. At least that's what it looks like. And so we get our two main characters, Hototo, and I can't remember what the girl's name is. And you can see the artwork inside of here. So basically, they've gotten to a place where they're going to be lifted up, right? And that's what happens. They get, at least Hototo gets lifted. She doesn't. So we have this thing where they find what we said kind of last month. We knew that they were going to be separated, and they'd probably have their own different tales to tell. And I really think that's been confirmed inside this book. That's what we're going to get. But we have this thing where it looks like the bracelets that are on the kids, they take a Hototo down underground, and it looks like they're going to cut it off of him, maybe to try to give to somebody else. But he goes in there, and they're doing this to other kids, and there's a couple of things that happen. Something comes up out of the ground and saves him and pulls him up. And when he gets up to the surface, then he's lifted up, levitated up with all these other kids that have those bracelets on all the way up in the sky. And then all of a sudden, they all start to disintegrate. It's messed up. You can see, right there. They start to plump up, and they start to disintegrate. But as you can see here, Hototo doesn't disintegrate. He starts to turn black, and he goes into this like little cocoon thing. You can see in the background there's another one that's like that. So they're not all the same. While this is going on, we get this scene from what they call the Supreme Intergalactic Council. This is a new thing we've gotten inside of the book. It looks like this. We got these beings over here that are shrouded in light, and they're making a decision for the future of mankind. And for some of them, they make the decision to allow planets to be destroyed, and other times they allow for them to actually be saved. In this particular case, they've opted for this other thing, and this other thing is basically that black cocoon that he's in. When they come out of it, they come out of there transformed into superheroes. I was blown away. And so we get this understanding that at least 5 of them were out of the thousands, 5 were transformed into superheroes, and this is that council's answer to possibly saving the human race. And we get the last page here. And then when you get So when you get to reading the epilogue in the back of the book, and you're seeing kind of the letters from the editor type thing, the Miranda brothers basically say, here's the big reveal. We're starting our own brand new superhero universe. They pitched it to Aftershock, and what we're seeing inside of this is the beginnings of this large shared universe that they have pitched to Aftershock, and they're going forward with it. And so We Live is actually the stepping stone into this larger narrative that we're going to be getting, and I'm excited for it. I really dug it. The superheroes, I guarantee most people, they're not going to be wowed by them, but they struck a chord inside of me because way back in the 90s, I wrote a comic book with a colleague of mine who was an artist on a really obscure indie book. I think it was called Teenage Super Shark Humanoids or something like that. But we wrote the comic book called The Sentinels, and they were full face-covered masks. It was a really cool concept, but these characters at the end of the book reminded me of those Sentinels that we created, and so that's kind of struck a chord with me. So I'm excited to see where they go with it. I know that they're not the first ones to try to do a superhero shared universe. We've gotten that a number of times. Some succeed, some don't, as we know. But I'm on board. Let's see what Aftershock does with this. Let's see what the Miranda brothers, give us. And but that's what it is. It's a stepping stone into a whole brand new thing. Pretty cool. All right. So if I had a pick of the week, this would probably be it. This one's by Vault Comics, and it is The Picture of Everything Else, issue number 2. I got to tell you, this thing is dang near a masterpiece. Dan Waters is the writer, and the art on this is done by Kishore Mohan. Does the art and the colors, and of course the lettering is by Aditya Bidikar. So this takes place in the Bohemian era of France, when you had all the artists, you had the Moulin Rouge, and you had this, really bourgeois way of talking. It's just that period, and we have these two artists that are good friends, and they come across a guy who painted the picture of Dorian Gray. And not only, did he have the ability to paint that supernatural picture, but he also has the ability to paint things, and whatever happens to the actual painting happens in real life. So, case in point, if he paints a picture of a person and he rips that painting in half and it splits right down the middle of that person in the painting, that person in real life is all of a sudden ripped in half just out of nowhere. It has that type of power. And so we get this thing that happened in the first book where one of the artists that are friends, he goes with that guy to be an apprentice, and the other one is so horrified by it, he doesn't want anything to do with art anymore, and he becomes a critic. And so that's where we find this particular book. The one artist, he's going in different circles, and he has definitely become a critic. We have encounters with artists that we know in history that come through inside of this, but most of the book is done in a format of, you have conversation, you have letters that are being written, you have narrative, and it has a Bram Stoker kind of feel to it in the way it's being presented. Bram Stoker's Dracula, that kind of format of storytelling, and the artwork really fits it. There's this thing that Aditya Bidikar does with the word bubbles, where he does this really curved thing, and language in France back then, it was like playing chess, and so whenever they're talking in these grandiose terms, or just kind of bull crapping, or that type of thing, that's where you'll find those kind of whimsical word bubbles, and it really lends to the feeling that's going on. So I really enjoyed that inside of this. The artwork is definitely it definitely fits what's going on because it feels like a period piece. Of course, they're drinking absinthe there. But I'll tell you where the mastery comes inside of this book is the way Dan Waters has written it, the actual language, the way he's using the English language to tell this story. It is flowing, it's masterful, it's poetic, and I have just been so just on board, glued with every page. I can feel the emotion of the characters, the despair, the surprise, the creepiness, and also the horror of it all. Like here's right here, you can see the guy getting ripped right here as the painting is ripped, and but basically by the end of the book, he comes back across his friend, and he invites him to come and meet this guy who is basically training him, and it feels kind of like a trap. And I don't want to get too far into this because there are some things that I've spoiled a bunch of stuff inside of this, but this I don't want to spoil. I mean, it's that good. Here's a scene where the character that has fallen in love with our boy that became a critic, he's gotten a letter from him, and you're reading that letter, and you can see the emotion that's coming across the person's face as he leaves him. It was just so heartfelt and so, the emotion that poured off the page really touched me. And that when you can touch me emotionally, I'll always say that's going to be the comic that I'm going to pick the most, because that's a feat and a half. And anyway, we get to the end and we find out that he has this ability to do some pretty amazing things, and we are caught in the end with the picture of France. Now, what happens to France if he rips that picture? I don't know, but I'm kind of excited to find out what's going on, because in the very last page we see the sky either coming on fire or dripping like blood. I don't know what that is yet, but it's not good. Anyway, the picture of everything else, issue number 2. I am so on board with this. This is an incredible comic book. I highly recommend it. It may not be for everybody. I'll just say that right off the bat, because it's not your normal stuff. But this, really well done. Really well done. So that's like the normal comics, that I wanted to review that I read in the last couple of weeks. But here's the last one. Here's another one that I read that I'd never read before. It's the first time back in print in a long time. And it is Scene of the Crime by Ed Brubaker, the art by Michael Lark, and the inking done by Sean Phillips with Michael Lark. You guys know I love Ed Brubaker, and I got to tell you, this story, wow, this was incredible. Everything I've ever read by him when he does crime noir has been good. Really, really well done. And inside of this, that's what you get. You get a crime noir story. It's very gritty, very dark. He keeps you on the edge of your seat. But truthfully, like, any crime noir story, most of the story, nothing's really happening. You're just getting bits and pieces of the story, which keeps you on the edge of your seat. But you're also getting the emotion of the players and everything that's going on there at the same time. By the time I got to the end of this, and I finished this, like, I picked it up and read it, and I didn't put it down until I was finished. You can see some of the artwork there. I wasn't crazy about Michael Lark's artwork inside of this. I kind of prefer Sean Phillips now that I have seen what Sean Phillips can do. I like Michael Lark on Daredevil, but I just don't think he was suited for as well as Sean Phillips with Ed Brubaker's these type of stories. But still, amazing. Had fun, so much fun reading it. By the time I was at the end, I was like, man, it's over. It's already over. And I wanted more. And so that's what you get out of a Ed Brubaker crime noir story. I don't care. Every one I've read has been incredible. But Scene of the Crime, if you haven't read it yet, definitely check it out. It's a great read. And I ordered it, when it was solicited inside of previews, because I'd never read it before. Highly enjoyed it. So But that's it, folks. I mean, there's some comics that I was able to review. Not my normal format, but I don't care. It was a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed it. It's so good to be back. And of course, check out the channel this week. There's a lot of things going on. But again, I really appreciate you guys, and I'm so looking forward to what the next season holds. And let's go there together. So as always, remember to support your local comic shop, and Excelsior. Y'all take care. Thanks for tuning in.